We'll jump right in. My name is Brian Waters. I'm an account executive here at Bales and Associates. Before we get started, Laura, can you hit record? And then we can jump right in. All right, as I was saying, my name is Brian Waters. I'm an account executive here at Bales and Associates. If you're not familiar with Bales, I'd like to take a second to tell you a little bit about us. We have been in the Infor ecosystem for over 26 years. We are entirely Infor focused. We do nothing but Infor implementations, upgrades, and managed services. We support all aspects of the technology, including S3, Landmark, and Cloud Suite, including HCM, finance, and supply chain. In fact, we have been recognized and given partnering awards in 8 of the last 10 years. Our consultants bring 15 plus years of consulting experience in this space and the equivalent in professional experience. Some were former benefit managers, compensation managers, directors of supply chain, as well as former controllers and CFOs. Class. Class is an independent organization that ranks healthcare IT performance. Bales was recognized as top of class for 2020 and 2021 in the Infor partnering ecosystem. Exciting news for the Infor community. Early this year, Bales became part of Nordic, an industry-leading healthcare consulting firm. We'll operate as a wholly owned subsidiary and continue to be led by Jamie Bales. Nordic will provide us with resources to fund our growth, expand our business, and support our customers more effectively. For healthcare customers, it allows us to bring together Nordic's capabilities in the EHR space to provide a more holistic solution, including specific expertise in EHR and ERP integration. This combination will offer a best practice model to reduce implementation risks and leveraging the data from both systems to drive insights and outcomes. Today's session is being recorded, and a link to the recording will be sent to all registrants. If you're not registered but would like to receive the link, please email Molly Velasco at balesllc.com to request a link. Again, we'd like to thank you for joining us today. Let me turn it over to Chris. Chris, all you.
Thank you very much, Brian. I appreciate that. Good morning, and good morning for some, and good afternoon to, I'm sure, most of you. My name is Chris Putney, and I've been an application consultant here at Bales and Associates since 2018, and I have been working on Infor Cloud Suite ever since. Prior to consulting with Bales, I have nearly 10 years of experience within supply chain in the healthcare sector, and just got to say, it's a pleasure to be here today. I think we're going to have a great topic to discuss. Before I dive right in, though, I do have a quick disclaimer. This disclaimer is essentially for Infor version 11 only, and it's the presentation is specifically for informational purposes. We just want to provide you with considerations as you make the best decisions for your organization as possible. So when I was asked about presenting this topic, I got really excited, and I thought about how I'd like to present this in a way that it's going to allow some functional users an easy understanding of the steps of using jobs and scheduling them to streamline some of their processes. So while I go over this particular presentation, I'm going to be covering what jobs are, why they are useful, and the steps needed to create them, what job streams are, why they're useful, and the steps needed to create job streams will also be covered. After that, I'm going to show you what job scheduling is, why that is useful, and of course, once I have done that, I'm going to give an example of other kind of reports that you can use within your organization. And keep in mind, I'm going to do my best to keep this as high level as possible, so that it's going to be very easy for you to follow along with, and that if you're a functional user, you might need to get someone with the admin account to create the jobs or the job schedules or maybe some of the report distributions. But this presentation is just going to kind of arm you with the knowledge, if you will, to be able to take this to whoever in your organization would be able to create those. And of course, once this presentation is over, I'm going to be happy to answer any questions that you might have. So immediately, we might have two questions. What are jobs, and why would I want to use them? Well, first off, jobs are tasks that it's going to allow us to perform actions or multiple actions within Cloud Suite. And we have two types there. We have reports that are used to retrieve data from the database, or we also have a job that can update and make changes to the data in the database. Now, why would we want to use a job? Well, once we create a job, we can actually reuse that job in a similar way. And this is going to help you save some time rather than having to enter the data repeatedly. As an example, in this presentation, I'm going to be doing a report called Warehouse Picklist Print. And if we're able to create this report on a scheduled job, you can see how much time it's actually going to save you. Oops, excuse me, jumping around there. And also, as I previously mentioned, you may not have access to some of these jobs. And if you don't have the access, again, this presentation is going to give you the knowledge to bring this to whoever has the ability to do this. So let's go ahead and dive right in, and I'm going to show you how to create a job. So in order to create a job, we need to navigate to the job console. And to do this, we need to, from our role selector, we need to find the job console role. And if we don't have the job console role, as I've said now, probably the last time I'll say that, you probably don't have access to this, but you will probably have to take some of this information and either request access or work with someone on your admin team to build this said job. But let's pretend that we have the role for you today. So once we're in the job console role, we're going to go ahead and select jobs. There are two ways of doing this in the job console form, which is one, you can click on the jobs, or on the navigation pane to the left on this slide, you can simply click on jobs. Once you click on this, it's going to bring up the jobs list. So this is the jobs list. This is going to contain a list of all of the jobs that are in the Cloud Suite environment. Some of them are already pre-built, but in this case, we want to make our own to kind of help streamline some of the processes within our business. So right here, I'm going to go ahead and click on the create icon in the top right. And when we click on the create icon, it's going to take us to the create form, which I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with. So this is the create form, and this is where the job and all of its parameters are going to be created. So we're gonna set up the job right here to kind of say exactly what we want it to do. So once we are in the form, we're going to give ourselves a title or the job. In this case, I have test and pick list as my job here. Now in the type, we want to create a job first. You can see that there's two types. There's job and job stream. I'm going to go into job streams a little later in this presentation and explain that to you. So in this example, I'll select job and then add a description. In this case, test pick list print. From here, step 2, we're going to have to define a class. And to do this, we're going to click on the search icon in the class field, and this is going to bring up the classes list, all of the business class that we might want to use. So our class list has popped up. And as I said, we're going to be doing a warehouse pick list print for this particular presentation. And I'm going to kind of refine my search here. In the business view, I'm going to type in pick, and it's going to show up everything that has the word pick in it. And I will select warehouse pick list print. From there, I'll click OK. And that information is going to populate on the class field. Now I also need to define an action. And the action would be the next step here. And for the warehouse pick list print action, there's actually only one action that I'll be able to select. So I will select that there. Once all of the fields are filled out, then we need to assign some job parameters to it. So we're going to go ahead and click on that jobs parameter button. And this is where we're going to define all the parameters for the job. Once you fill these out, so again, there's a bit of a setup process, but once you fill these out, you don't have to set them up again for this particular job. It's kind of a set it and forget it way. Of course, you can go back in and make some modifications to it based on, a particular date range. Maybe you want this job to only run for a year and maybe you'll renew it, but we'll get into some examples on that later. But you can also have numerous pick lists to run. Again, maybe I'm getting a little ahead of myself here. But since we're creating the warehouse pick list print, the minimum setup that you can do to define a job would be the company. Let me get out my little laser pointer here. The company and the stores. That's the bare minimum to set up the pick list. But we do want to refine this a little bit. So I'm going to add a little bit more information here. I want my document type to be requisitions, my print option to be bin slot serial requisition based. And then a very beneficial thing when creating these is actually setting up report distributions. Now, report distributions are also set up by your administrators, but they allow you to report to groups within a report distribution group, excuse me. So they report to users within that said group. And this is going to allow them to receive this report, in this case, the job that's running, the warehouse picklist print. They can either receive that in the PDF format in the notifications within Cloud Suite, or they can receive it via email if those parameters are set up for them to receive that. So the report distributions are just getting the reports to the users that need them and no one else. It's not sending them off to the whole organization. But as an example, let's just say that only people in warehouse and inventory control should be receiving this. So you would build your report your administrator would build your report distribution to have that sent to those particular users. So once all those parameters are selected there, we're going to go ahead and click the OK button. And this is going to take us back to the job screen. Excuse me. So once we're back here, we notice that the job parameters is highlighted, and it also has an asterisk next to it. Now, from here, we're done with this particular job. We've assigned our classes, our actions. We've told the job what we want it to do. And now that we're done with the job, so we can either save this particular job, or, and on the top right here, there's if we want to assign another job or a job stream, we can click on Save and New. And you might want to ask, why would I want to put this job in a particular job stream, which is what I'm going to do. Well, I'm going to talk about job streams here in just a moment. So what is a job stream? I know you've been asking. Well, it's a series of jobs that are run in order that is determined by the stream's creator. For example, the warehouse picklist print can have like a series of different locations that you'd want that to be run within your organization. The job stream will essentially run all of those jobs that are in order for each individual location. So you could group up, for instance, your main warehouse for the picklist print, and then maybe you have maybe your surgery center core, for instance. You could have those run as two separate jobs within a job stream. So that's why, furthermore, like why you'd want to use the job stream. And of course, it allows you, as I said, allows you to group your job stream or your jobs together to streamline your processing. And the benefit is once you have your job processes down, or rather the job created, it's going to be a lot easier for you. So you don't forget a particular process of your day-to-day activities, rather, because sometimes you might have to run multiple reports. Well, the job is going to, or the job stream will allow it so that you don't have to go through and manually access all of those reports yourself. So you know a little bit about job streams. Now let's jump in and create one. Maybe it'll make a little bit more sense. So again, we have our job. When I hit save and new, the job I was working on is saved, and now we have a new job that has popped up here. Now, as you can see, it looks very, very similar to the last slide, but we're going to add a job title to it. But the difference here is we're going to create a job stream. It's more or less this. The process is more or less the same as creating a job, but the main difference is, of course, the job stream, which we're going to see that some of the information isn't populated. So when I select job stream, the class and the action fields that were at the bottom when I selected job are no longer there. So once I highlight job stream though, I'm going to go ahead and click save. And now we have where the class and the action screen was, we now have a different little area here, and this is the job stream step list. And this is, in a way, kind of how it sounds. These are the steps that you're going to create on the job stream to run that particular job process. So right now, we only have the one process, which is the test picklist print one. I had actually set that up as an example already. But we're going to go ahead and add another job to this job stream. If I do that, I'm going to go ahead and click on our create icon. And now we have the job stream step screen, the screen to create and define a new job into this job streams here. Again, this list is also searchable. Sometimes it might come up with multiple jobs that we could add, but in this case, I want to click on pick, or type in pick and then search. And then I want to add another job that I had created. In this case, the one that I had created initially in this example on the slide. I'm going to go ahead and highlight test Picklist Print 4 and click OK. Now, what you can also do at this point is you can click on Save and New to add multiple jobs. For example, if you're doing a month-end close process, you want to set that up as a job stream. You can make multiple jobs and assign it to that. So, for instance, you would close your unreleased inventory transactions. Maybe you do that not at the end of the month, but just kind of one of those processes, and you'd go down the list of all of your closing into a job stream. I'll give an example on that a little bit later, but in this example, I'm only using 2 steps, okay? From there, I will go ahead and click OK. And then I need to hit the back arrow on my browser, and it's going to take us back to the job stream step list. We see we have our 2 here. Now I will get out my laser pointer here. We have this highlighted here, 1 and 2. Those are the steps in which the job is going to be running in, the execution sequence, essentially. So you can actually change the order in which you want to have this run. If you have like multiple jobs here, so you could by changing that, you can click on modify on the line level itself, and then change the order, and then from there it'll prompt you to hit save at the top. Or you can go into the individual line itself by double clicking and changing the order in which of the job that you want to run that way, and that'll prompt you to hit save as well. So is this all that we can actually do to help streamline some of your processes? Well, no. I mean, as I had mentioned before, we're setting up jobs, our streams, but now we want to actually go ahead and schedule this job. We want to get it on a frequency that is going to be good for our organization and beneficial for our day-to-day tasks. So with that, I'm going to introduce you to our job scheduler. As I've kind of alluded to, job scheduling is, in a way, kind of self-explanatory. It's going to allow us to run at the dates and times, the jobs in which we define them on specific dates and times. And we can also delay starting a job at a date and time that we would need them. So again, I've already talked about kind of doing your month-end closing processes where you can define all of that as a job. Again, we would use our job scheduling to allow you to run reports when you need them, not when the users can make them. It's going to kind of eliminate some user error if they might have forgotten a step. And also, it's going to make sure that you're running it at the appropriate time, on a crucial time or date. So in my example, we're making the warehouse Picklist Print, and I'm going to show you why this would be helpful aside from just what I've explained to you. The Picklist Print, maybe for my organization that I previously worked at, right, or some of the places that I've consulted for, they want their pick list to be run on every single hour up until maybe say 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Maybe it's of course it's different for every single organization. Well, the job schedule allows us to do that and allows us to streamline that process for pick lists. So in order to schedule jobs, we need to navigate back to the job console. And then we need to select the job that we want to run by right-clicking and clicking on Run Job. Now the Run Job screen is going to populate. And then from there, we want to click on the Schedule button. So we're going to enter the name of the scheduled action and the name in the scheduled action run field right here. The notification type in this is an example. I put on failure. So we'll receive a notification for email if something happens with this particular job. Occasionally, sometimes there's multiple processes running in the background. It doesn't happen too often, but it does happen, as we know, where maybe a process just maybe didn't trigger or work the right way. So this is notifying you first off if there is some kind of failure with that. So the next step of this process will be me adding the schedule detail in, and there's quite a bit to it. So here's the schedule detail. Now, there are many different scheduling types that you can choose from. You can say run once, which is only going to run it once. You pretty much just set it and you're going to run it once until you want to prompt it again. This would be a good process for month-end close, as I keep saying. Some of those processes for purchasing or inventory control that you would do. You would just say, run this once at the end of the month or whenever you would be doing your closing. In my example, I'm doing by frequency, and this is you're going to run it based on the time in hours, which I have already configured. Or excuse me, on this particular example, we have it configuring by hours, and then we can specify, so maybe on the 15th minute of every hour, we would specify that in the first time to run or the latest time to run as well. Furthermore, some other scheduling types, before I get into the example, is you can schedule by a date in the month. Again, rather than having the job set up to only run once, you can have this continually run on the 30th or 31st of the month, the last day. You can also schedule job types by day as well. So like every Wednesday, I want to close out all of my purchase orders that are there. Maybe not the ideal practice, but just an example, of course. You can do it by week number. So the third week of every month would be an example where you can run some of your processing. And another scheduling type that you can utilize is advanced scheduling, which is a combination of all of the previous scheduling types that I had mentioned. So the default type is run once, but with my warehouse Picklist Print example, I'm going to do this by frequency. And again, as you can see, my frequency, I'm setting that to 1 hour. The first time run field is optional, but for this example, it would be used so that the first time this job stream runs, it will also be in the future and at the time set to the latest time to run as well. The final action that we're going to set up on the job scheduler is going to be the action failure configuration portion. So this is going to be if something fails to run on your particular report. It's going to create, so like an action failure or a misfire happens, a report will be generated called an async action misfire record. So this is just going to give you a notification if something happens. So if, let's say for this example, the threshold will be set for every 30 minutes. So if it does not run within 30 minutes, the job would be considered a failure. And someone within your organization will get a notification letting you know that, hey, something's wrong with this job and needs to be looked at. Maybe can my administrator, can you please restart this job and maybe see where the hiccups coming from perhaps. And you can set up the number of retries until it would be a complete failure in this particular screen. So by clicking OK, this is going to take us back to the run job pop-up. And now we've got our job streams. We've got our jobs assigned to our job streams. We've got our scheduling assigned. We've got also, in addition to the jobs, we have our report distribution set up and who's going to receive those particular reports. Now we just want to submit this and let it run. But you might be asking, like, what are some of the other reports within your organization, or within your organization, but maybe specifically pertaining to the supply chain module that can be used to streamline some of your day-to-day process? Well, I've got some examples set aside for warehousing, for purchasing, for the inventory control modules as well that could be beneficial for you to run as jobs or job streams. So right off the bat, the example that I've already gone over here, it would be warehouse Picklist Print. We would run that multiple times per day. Maybe maybe just running every single hour on the 15th minute. That's going to just turn our pick tickets it's going to turn the requests into pick tickets for our warehouse clerks to pick the orders. We have our warehouse items on back order, and that's going to show items to the inventory location that have been back ordered in shipments. We want to probably this to reoccur nightly would be a good recommendation, just so that in the morning, your warehousing staff or whoever's going to be running those reports can be notified of what's on back order and maybe determine what's important. Maybe we need to get a substitution in or what have you. Have that on someone's desk first thing in the morning is I think ideal. And we have the warehouse batch allocation report. This job will allocate back orders after receiving is complete and allocate all the inventory for release documents. Multiple times per day, just like the pick list, would be a good suggestion on the frequency. And then the warehouse shipment release, you can run this. This is just going to release all of the tickets that are, excuse me, all of the shipments for picking that have been done in your organization. That's going to release all of them, just in case maybe someone might have forgot to release their own individual requisition, or excuse me, their own pick tickets rather. I would say run this in update night mode, or maybe at the end of every single shift, perhaps. That would be probably a good practice. We have some of our purchasing module jobs. I've alluded to a couple of these, but here's some good practices. So for creating POs from standing contracts, that's going to catch any of the standing contracts and create purchase orders for them. We can set that to run daily. Processing purchase requests. I know this is a big one that we probably don't want to miss. Any kind of requisitions going into purchase requests and then being converted into purchase orders. Keep in mind that if there's any kind of information missing on the purchase request, such as like a vendor or vendor item number, or if account information is needed on that, buyer intervention will still be needed, but there can obviously be some kind of report that could be flagged to let the buyer know that would need to be corrected. I think a good time for that, of course, is running that multiple times throughout the day, though, as well. Mass PO issue. This is going to take any of the released not issued POs and issue them to the vendor. Maybe multiple times per day would be a good time for that as well, depending on your organization, of course. And then the process purchase order EDI acknowledgements. This is going to send the acknowledgement data or actually convert the acknowledgement data from the mass PO issue in EDI format. And you can probably set that to run right after the mass PO issue report. That's typically a good example of maybe setting up a job stream as well. So you would do you would create the job stream to run the mass PO issue, and then after that, the process PO EDI acknowledgement as a pretty good example. We have our delivery report. And so, of course, our delivery tickets have information on where goods are going and what requesting location needs them delivered to. That would be a good thing to run multiple times a day, as well as our put away report. Things that need to get back on your shelf, as I'm sure you're already aware of what that report does, and contains, where exactly those goods need to go at particular places within your facility. That's a good thing to run multiple times a day. Our received not invoice, or RNI, it's good to run this weekly in report mode, just because we probably don't want to run this in update mode until we kind of get closer to the closing of the GL period. So that's the next part, is you would maybe run this. You would get your weekly report as needed, so you can be notifying the individuals who need to correct the RNI. But then you would run maybe towards the end of the month, you would set up the RNI as update to kind of clear those out. Same thing with purchase order headers. This is going to close any kind of open purchase orders that we know have been fully received an invoice, and we can set that to run weekly or have it run overnight. Lastly, we have our inventory control module jobs. This is going to be journalizing distributions. We want to make sure that all of the transactions that we're doing in inventory control would be posted. It's probably good to be doing that nightly, or maybe, again, as I keep citing, at the end of a shift. And then, of course, our inventory period closing cycle. So you would set this to run in a job stream to run during period close. And you can also, this would define all of the jobs that would be in inventory period close. So that would be like capturing stock on hand quantity, the valuing of each particular location, which inventory valuation and par location, which are our next two. You can run those as needed by the organization. So you can run those maybe once every 2 weeks or when you need them, but not a bad time to actually run those in tandem with your your inventory period closing processes. So with that, it's been a pleasure presenting to you. If we have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them now.
Yes, I do have a question.
Sure.
Yeah, we since we moved over to V11, we have a PO 23 that was created as a job, right?
Mm-hmm.
That runs every hour. Then recently we added another job stream for exception report, PO exception report.
Mm-hmm.
Now we are going to a distribution group. Now, what's happening that they're getting the exception report every hour that is clogging up their email. They want to know if there's a way we could separate the exception report, not to run every hour or when the PO is generated, to run like once a day, like every
Yes.
morning.
So that would be my suggestion. Perhaps you could create a separate job just for those exceptions, and maybe have it run once a day, or maybe at the end of a shift or something like that. That would be better rather than including that into the job stream of the PO 23 that is running every single hour. You can
Yeah.
create a separate one that allows the notifications to go out via the report distribution, maybe like once a day.
Okay.
Great question.
Okay.
Thank you, Godwin.
So we can potentially take out the exception report from the PO job stream and create a new one for just the exception report. That's what you're saying?
That would be my suggestion. Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Godwin. Do you have any other questions?
I've got a question for you, Chris. So are these jobs and schedules tied to the actor that created them? And if so, is there a way to use a service account instead in case that actor leaves the company and their ID is deactivated?
So once it's created, the jobs can be set as a public job. Now, if say that individual has left the company, it will still be in the system if they had defined it as a public job, of course. I believe the default for creating jobs or job streams would be public automatically. Now, if that actor had left, if they had created that specific job, I can follow up with you on that, John, just to make sure I can answer that correctly. But by default, most of the jobs would be created as public. Okay. Now, if someone from an administrative level, they're going to be running so many other jobs themselves. I would imagine you'd be able to get back in and actually obtain those jobs and be able to run them yourself as well with whatever idea that they might have had. But I'll get back to you on that one for sure, John. That's a great question.
Perfect. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Chris, this is Kelly Gilbert.
Hi, Kelly.
I know from the HCM side, if they create it as that user user leaves the organization, it does cause issues. So I think I don't know if any of our technical team is on the phone, like John or someone, they might want to definitely talk to the clients about creating a service account.
Well, thank you for that, Kelly. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Well, all right. If I have no further questions, I will turn that back over to Brian here.
Wait,
Thanks,
hold on.
Chris.
Wait, I think Laura's volume isn't working. She says there's something in the chat. Yeah. What is a good way to update the parameter values on a job or make them dynamic like date ranges? Are there formulas or calculations that can be used for field values?
So for that, I mean, you could simply go into the job itself, and for the, I guess I'm maybe not understanding the question correctly, but what that all of that information is defined in the job parameters once you select your class and your action. So
This is Joe. I asked the question. Ideally, we'd set up a job and then schedule it and set it and forget it, let it run every week or whatever. But for certain jobs, parameter values might be looking at a date range where you only want to run it for the current week or something.
Mm-hmm.
And the form itself calls for a start date and an end date. Is there a good way to update those values so that every week when it runs for the current week when the form calls for a start date and an end date, as an example?
So are you're just pulling a report in non-update mode, I'm assuming, and then you could run said report in update mode. You could create a job. Yeah, you could certainly create either a new job or update the parameters on that specific job to make the updates that are needed on a weekly basis.
How do you do that without touching it every week? I mean, how do you do it? Is there a good way to update the parameter value? I mean, you showed us how to create a job, and that job, you picked a certain business class and form that popped up, and you had, different parameter values to fill out. If those parameter values need to change each time it runs, is there a good way to update those parameter values without having to actually go into the job itself every week and change them manually?
I think that is a great question, and that's Joseph Vandenberg, yes.
Yeah.
So, sir, what I'd
like in the old days, we might use, like process flow, IPA process or something to read that in, figure it out, update the parameter, save it, so that way when the job ran, it had the newest value to do that type of thing. I didn't know if there was a newer, fancier way to do that.
Honestly, what I do is I just go and manually do the adjustment. Now, that's a fantastic question, whether or not that can actually be automated, and that's why, if there's a different way of updating that, and that's why I would want to get back to you on that, if that's okay. Joseph, if you could drop your email in the chat, I'd be happy to get some follow-up and get back to you on that.
I will. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. What a great question.
All right, Chris, looks like that ended for the questions. So thanks again for that, Chris. Very informative. For the people on today's call, our remaining October series sessions, I will be next Friday, October 29th. We'll have continuous performance engagement, check-ins, pulse surveys, and badges. Then a financial session, Ask Me Anything, at 1 p.m. Eastern. If you'd like, you can register with Molly Velasco at balesllc.com, and that'll be next Friday. I think we have one more slide. There we go. We'll take a little break after next week, and we'll resume in February. And then I'd like to, in closing, let you know about our Coffee with Consultant offering. If you have any questions about what you saw today or questions related to the Infor products, please reach out to us via our website. We will contact you with a consultant who will spend a half hour with you at no charge over coffee, tea, or whatever your preferred beverage is. They will answer any questions you have related to your Infor system. Thank you all for attending today, and we look to talk to you soon. Have a good day. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you, Brian. Appreciate you.